Welcome to Freeform Radio on the Freeform Network. You can follow us at Facebook at Freeform Network, on Twitter at FFR Podcast. Remember to send your questions, suggestions to ffnquestions@gmail.com. Freeform Radio is back on, and today we have Daniel.
Yes, sir.
We got Noel.
What's going on, everyone?
So we're back at it. The boys are back together this week. As the day of this recording, I believe it's the first day of summer. I could be mistaken. Yeah, I think so.
I thought it was, yeah. Well, yesterday was a summer solstice or something like that. I forget what the technical term is.
Sounds something like dirt worship and shit.
The longest day of the year.
Right.
But we're backing at them. We're glad for you guys to download and stream this episode. So we're going to go to Noel today. I hear he's looking for some Toyota Supras. I don't know what in particular. Which one are you looking for, Noel? Are you looking for a new one, an old one? What's going on?
Well, I've always liked Toyota Supra since I was a kid. And when I saw Fast and Furious, I kind of fell in love with the car. It just had a cool design, cool sound. Everything about it was, I guess a kid's dream for a car. And so by the time I was old enough to be able to afford a car and be able to buy my own car, it was already, 10 years later pretty much since the car stopped making production. They stopped in, I think, 98, roughly around there. So, by the time that I was buying cars in 2007, 8 and on, pretty much they're all old. They're all, worn out and just fucking run down and shit. So I figured, you know what, man, one day they're going to make another Supra. It's going to make a comeback, and it's going to be better than ever. And then I got, the good news around 2017-ish that they had prototypes and shit, and they were coming out with these really cool, like, styled cars, the concept cars, that most companies do. And then they finally released the actual model that, came out, and it was just a massive disappointment. Massive disappointment. For starters, the original style of the Supra was changed to become a Boxster style, kind of like the Porsche Boxsters, or it almost looks kind of like an aggressive Mazda Miata, like that small style car. The second thing that disappointed me about it was that it's not going to have the engine that made it popular, the 2JZ engine, where it's the kind of engine that it has. It just allows it to be not only modified easily, but also to produce just ridiculous amounts of power for a pretty reasonable priced engine. And this engine would not even be made by Toyota. This engine for the new Supra is made by BMW. Wow. It's pretty much like the BMW, the Z, what is it? The Z4, Z3, whatever the fuck. It's pretty much like an engine like that. And if you look at the actual model, the actual design of the car, it resembles the Toyota FRS or the Subaru BRZ or the Toyota 86. They're all similar style designs, and it's like a Boxster style where it's just not what it was. It lost a lot of its allure, and they offered in a 4-cylinder or 6-cylinder single turbo. Usually, in the older ones, it had a 6-cylinder. Are you guys very familiar with the Supras at all, or?
I just looked up some pictures, and I knew in high school, I remember a lot of Puerto Ricans had these Supras. I'm looking at some of the pictures, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, a lot of, when I was in high school in the mid-90s, Puerto Ricans had these type of cars. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. That's who purchased these cars, because I see some of the 80s pit cars, and I've seen some of those too. But yeah, you're right, man. Even used that are running, they're pretty expensive, man.
And so that leads to the last thing that disappointed me about this car is that the newest ones with the single turbo, 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, whatever one you want, it's gonna be 45 to 60,000 after taxes.
Wow! Holy smokes!
So for that price, I can get a fucking Audi. I can get a better BMW than this, fake Toyota that's really a BMW. I can get a freaking Corvette for 60 grand, dude. So it's just really disappointing. I think the best version, the best model of the Supra that's currently out can make about 380 horsepower, but I'm not sure if it's easy to mod. I'm not sure if it's going to be as easy to work with as the other ones were. Ultimately, I'm just disappointed at it. I don't know if I'll ever get this new Supra, but if I do eventually have money, maybe my midlife crisis, I'll eventually get a car like this. I'll probably end up getting the older version, like the '98 Supra.
Well, it does have a legacy. Yeah, you're right. They stopped making it for a while, and when I Googled, searched it right now, it said the 2021 Toyota Supra. It says the first article says believe the hype. So I mean, I don't know how good it's gonna be, but I mean, I was never really into imports that much, but yeah, I mean, just from the old pictures, I just saw a lot of. It was somewhat popular when I was growing up, the older ones anyway.
Now you were kind of flirting with the idea of maybe getting this later on. Would you consider getting this as your next car and using it as your day-to-day daily to go to work and stuff like that?
Not at this price point, dude. That's way too expensive. I'm not gonna spend 45 to 60 grand on that. It's not worth it. It really isn't. It's only the other vehicles that I mentioned earlier, the FRS, the BRZ, the Toyota 86. Those are around like almost $20,000 cheaper, and they're only maybe about 100 horsepower less, around there. But it still makes 200 horsepower, which is pretty good for a small car. So it's like, why would I spend this kind of money on a car that's barely better than something that's actually affordable?
Yeah, and then you got to think this is a sports car. I mean, I'm not sure um, how soon you plan to have a family or if you want to, but I'm not sure if a coupe car is really the type of car that you're going to want to get, to raise up a family.
No, of course not. That's why I was kind of saying that this would probably be like my midlife crisis kind of car where, in my late 40s and early 50s, I'll probably end up getting maybe more than likely it's going to be like a '98 Supra, and then I'll be able to work on it and put it the way I want it. I've always wanted a Supra since I was a kid. There was a few cars that I liked: Supra, Lancer, and I did like the WRX as well. Oh, and the GTR Nissan.
The only thing I'm thinking about right now is from the day to day. Maybe when I'm older, my only dream is always as I get older to get a Cadillac. That's it. And I was looking at some of the SUV Cadillacs recently. I'm like, damn man, these ain't too bad. But they haven't been
Yeah.
that reviewed that great.
Well, Cadillac isn't what it used to be. The
Yeah.
manufacturing's just gone down the drain, unfortunately.
No, I think if I would get like an older car, I think maybe like a Oldsmobile Cutlass, something like that would be kind of sweet to have, drive around. It's not too much like a muscle car, but it's got some class and it's still got that power. So I think something like that would be kind of sweet to have.
Like the one that Dad had.
Yeah, something like that would be kind of sweet to have.
It was a pretty nice car. I just didn't like that it didn't have any power options. Everything was like manual.
Right. I mean, obviously, when you go something old like that, you might be stuck with, having manual windows and whatnot. But I think something like that or something in that reign would be something that would interest me maybe when I get older.
Should look at the Grand National. Similar in, it's similar in style.
Yeah, but the Grand National had that one was fast, had a nice engine, and it was a little bit more souped up than like your dad. Plus, your dad was like a four door, if I remember correctly, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably want a coupe
The
if
coupe,
anything.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then with the Oldsmobiles, I had a Buick Regal for a little bit, but some of them are really nice. I mean, and some of them had better. Well, what Buick and Oldsmobile were known for was the drive, like a smooth drive. They weren't necessarily fast. That Buick was just like a smooth, non-bumpy, like just a straight, nice ride. And it wasn't known for their speed. It was more for their handling and like just a nice, smooth ride.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, cruiser. I could see
Yeah.
that. But yeah, and I mean that's pretty much it for the Supra. Unfortunately, the old school did not meet the new school. The new school has pretty much gone down the drain. So we'll see if their newer models, the 2022, end up making progress. But for the 2020 and the 2021, did not impress me at all for the Supra. But something else in news that I'm wondering if you guys have actually seen is about the PlayStation 5 reveal. You
Oh
guys get to
hell
see the
yeah,
event?
hell yeah, man.
I
I don't
just
know
seen
What
the
if I.
about you,
memes.
Andy?
I just seen the
The
memes,
memes.
people
Oh,
shitting
okay.
on it. Yeah, I seen that, but I haven't really looked at the specs. I mean, let me, let us know what exactly is in there. I mean, I'm assuming it's gonna have like an actual Blu-ray, like a disc drive, right? It's not all streaming or downloading with the gaming side of it.
Yeah, I mean
So
it is actually both, which was kind of weird. I don't know. You saw the press conference, Noel?
yeah, I actually saw the whole 1 hour thing. It was pretty cool. I mean, there was a lot of trailers mainly, so it wasn't like the best it could be, but at least they gave you the information you needed.
Right, for sure. But yeah, to answer your
Yep.
question, Andy, it is going to be both. It's going to be not only a Blu-ray drive, but a 4K Blu-ray drive, as well as an all-digital version. So yeah, they're going to step foot into that realm and see how that goes.
And they're gonna have SSD drive. Looks like around 800 gigabytes internal. And let's see, it looks like it has 16 gigabytes of RAM. It's got a 8-core processor, AMD. It's going to make about 10 teraflops GPU processing. I don't know all the details in terms of the specs, but I would say that for what you're paying for, you're going to get your money's worth, in my opinion. Some people were kind of critical about the price points.
What is the
Um,
launch price point?
so that's the funny thing is that it wasn't officially revealed by Sony yet, but Amazon in France, I believe, released some price points
And
for the
they leak stuff
PS5.
all the time.
Yeah.
Amazon
Amazon the
France.
French?
Yeah, they leak stuff all the time.
Damn French.
So did you see the price point, Daniel?
I did see something. I'm not sure which one you're speaking of, but I saw like a 499 for I believe the digital version, and then a 600 or a 599 for the 4K Blu-ray. Is that right?
Damn.
I thought it was 550 for the one with the drive, but
Okay.
I could be wrong. It definitely is in the range you're saying. It's gonna be like 550 to 600 for the one with the drive, the actual disc drive, which
Right.
to me is
That's what I
similar to
heard.
the PS3. You know?
Yeah, I mean it's in that meme of the PlayStation 3 because I know a lot of people laughed at that price point because of the core processing that they were trying to introduce. But yeah, that it seems like a lot, but with inflation, it's about in course. Now, granted, there's a lot of people struggling right now with COVID, losing jobs, all the civil unrest. Is that price point something manageable that people can take care of? So I think this is going to be a tough sell this year in particular, just because of everything going on. I think in a regular year, if everything's copacetic and fine, I think it would be more manageable and more within expectations of inflation and price increases of everything. But yeah, it's going to be tough for a pill for people to swallow for sure.
I think it's a race to who's first to release the next gen console. I don't know what Xbox is doing, but I think Sony learned their lesson from the Xbox 360 and the PS3. They're like, we got to be first because otherwise you lose a lot of traction. You're always going to be behind, and you just got to be first. They have to be first to launch because I think they learned their lesson from that. Not a fiasco, but they never really caught up. Xbox 360 just dominated for during those consoles time, and I think Sony learned their lesson.
Yeah, with the
But
PlayStation 3, they were like just about a year late.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they never really gained ground on them.
I did hear that for this PS5 model, that they were mainly concerned, well, not mainly concerned, but they one of their concerns was to make sure that they made a profit on every model sold, every unit sold. So I'm pretty sure that the pricing is going to match what the manufacturing cost is. So it's not like we're getting like a massively, inflated price here. We're getting enough so that they can make a profit and keep them in business, which is ultimately what we want if you're a PlayStation fan. And I'm not too shocked with the price, $600, based on what we're getting. The SSD drive is a big selling point. It's going to make load times ridiculously faster than the PS4, like fucking like insanely faster than the PS4. And I don't if you guys actually saw the press conference or the reveal, I should say. The trailers and the videos of these games look phenomenal, dude. For me to do that on my PC, let's say I was going to build a PC from the ground up to do what the PS5 is doing, I'd have had to spend close to $2,000, dude. Now, granted, the PC would probably last me, 5, 10 years, but I imagine the PS5 is going to last 5, 10 years as well. So I don't know, $600 is not a bad price to me. I'm definitely gonna set it aside for this year's Black Friday or whatever. And I was joking with my cousin. We're all kind of like keeping an eye on this stuff, and he was saying, "Do you think you're gonna get it?" And I'm like, yeah, I'll probably get it and just leave it in the box for like 10 years and then sell it for like twice the money.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just the SSD, like you were mentioning, Noel, it is so fast that there's nothing in the market right now that is readily available consumer wise that is that fast. So
Yeah.
this is even a step above the SSDs that are currently out in market. And it was so fast, in fact, that Epic Games, when they developed their next engine, I don't quite recall the name of the engine off the top of my head, but when they developed their next engine, Sony, they were working on Sony dev kits, and they had to change their code to consume the speed that the SSD was giving them because their graphics were inferior to that speed, or it wasn't using up all the power, all the juice. So they actually went back and touched their code to upgrade it to the capabilities of this SSD. So a lot of people are toting this SSD is the next big thing. So yeah, I'm excited to see what it can do for sure.
Now, what are your thoughts on the size of the actual console itself?
Well, they released the pictures, but they didn't release the size, like, 15-inch by this, by that. So it's really unknown. Now, people have scaled it based
Yep.
on the USB drive size and the disk drive and kind of scaled it. So there are some examples out there. Of course, they're estimates, and it is a huge increase. I did measure my shelf where I currently have my PlayStation 4, and it will not fit there. I'm going to have to lay it down, which I typically don't care for because it takes up so much more room on your shelf. I usually have them standing up, but where I currently have it, it's not going to fit. So yeah, this guy is tall.
Have you seen the pictures, Andy?
No, like I said, I only saw memes, people like making fun of the way it looks, but I didn't know that the size was going to be a big issue. I mean, the PS4 I think is pretty big. I mean, but I thought it would be something comparable to that. But I just saw something you sent us. Yeah, that thing looks fucking massive, man.
Yeah, dude.
And that's the one with
It's
the
huge,
disc drive.
man.
Yeah.
That's the one with the disc drive, dude. It's gonna be humongous. I already kind of measured where I'm gonna put it when I get it, and it's gonna take up like a good chunk of my bottom shelf
It looks
underneath
like
the TV.
a mini oscillating fan.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at it like, damn, that shit looks like, yeah, you're right. It looks like it's going to be tall. So,
Well, supposedly
yeah.
the cooling system is what drove the system to be so big, is that
Mm-hmm.
they have this super duper cooling system
The
because
hardware. Yeah.
yeah, because the PlayStation 4 is kind of loud.
Yes.
Sometimes when you're running graphic heavy games, you could hear that fan kick up and make some noise, which doesn't bother me. To me, it just becomes white noise after a few seconds. But the PlayStation 5 is supposed to remedy that, so we'll see. We'll see.
I hope so. The fins at the top supposedly is gonna allow for better cooling, and And yeah, I was talking to a few other people, and we're all hoping, just like you are, that the cooling is going to be solved. That way, we can have really good gaming, good frame rates, and not a lot of noise.
Well, yeah, it was is the gaming has gotten better. I mean, the hardware is getting better to boost up graphics and speed. I mean, that shit's pretty soon you're gonna have to start putting water in these fucking things probably the next console because those things run fucking hot and gamers be playing all fucking night because babies sleeping is for babies.
Yeah, for sure. No, and this is just a start. I mean, this
Yeah.
is just a reveal. There's still a lot of stuff that they haven't shown, so it's exciting times.
Yep, some of the games are going to be pretty cool to look at. But anyway, so that's pretty much what I've been looking at for gaming and stuff for something to do inside the house. But I've actually been looking at doing more outside of the house, maybe a little gardening myself, kind of enjoy the weather. What about you, Andy? I heard you were helping your wife with gardening recently.
So yeah, with this fucking pandemic, whatever the fuck's going on, my wife, she's like, we gotta do something outside. And this year she had her heart set on making a veggie garden. So, and me being the lazy bum that I am, like, yeah, have fun with that. And needless to say, I was kind of hesitant to help because that's the type of husband I am. But to my surprise, she did a pretty good job. I mean, we got cilantro, we got squash, we got cucumbers, we got tomatoes, we got cauliflower, which apparently the cauliflower you have to plant somewhere kind of where the sun don't hit it and cool. Otherwise, the white cauliflower starts sprouting up. So these are cauliflower. We put one cauliflower. She put one cauliflower in there, and it's starting to grow antennas. You ever seen that shit, Danny?
No, I haven't
Yeah,
seen
it's
that.
and we Googled. She Googled it apparently because the sun is hitting it too much, and the cauliflower just shoots up. I've never seen anything like it. It was kind of shocking. It looks like it's mutating before our eyes, and we got big fucking leaves. She goes out there every day and waters it. The last week I've been kind of joining her. This morning, actually, before we jumped on here, I brought some pallets from work, so we had that to lean them up against the garden because you want the squash and cucumber leaves to and vines to wrap around the cauliflower so they go upward.
Right.
So I guess it's a big thing. She's like, I don't want them touching the ground. It's not good for it. Blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't know. So I was doing that this morning, and we're gonna see how much of it grows. But yeah, it's been growing pretty good. But I was real hesitant to be a part of it because yeah, it's fucking hard work, especially when it's hot and it's humid. So, but the last week I've been out there, and we'll see how it goes. I might post a picture of it on the Facebook when we share the links to see before and after. Because right now it's pretty fucking big, and she keeps adding stuff to it. She put the chives the other day, and I'm like, can the dirt handle all this fucking growing? Because that fucking garden is full.
Right. Yeah. No. You really need to give space to a lot of
Yes.
vegetables. They need space to move, especially like the cucumbers, like you said. They need space for those vines to grow up. And I did kind of learn that the first year. I jam packed that flower bed and put shit everywhere, and it was like trampling, and they were fighting each other to try to get space. So the year after that, I kind of spread it out more, and I put less. And I did see a considerable better yield of veggies. But yeah, man, I love having some veggies in the garden. Get some fresh cucumbers, tomatoes. Man, it's some good
Yeah, the
shit.
tomatoes, we bought that housing or whatever, like that rounded cage. I don't know what else to call it. And yeah, the fucking thing just shot straight up. It's amazing how tall that thing is now, the tomato. Um, and like I said, she waters it twice a day. That what I did notice our water bill to go up.
Right.
And yeah, so it's been pretty cool. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see how this is gonna taste. Because yeah, we got like I said, cucumbers, the squash, cilantro,
Yeah,
cauliflower, and tomatoes.
yeah. With the chives and the cilantro, you gotta keep an eye on it because they're wild plants and they
Yes.
will spread and take over the garden bed. So if you let that cilantro and you don't tame it and keep it in the area that you want it to grow, it'll spread
So
and
what do
it'll.
you do? Do you put like bamboo sticks around it, or do you put like a net, or what do you do?
I ended up buying like a 10-inch PVC pipe
Uh-huh.
and just a small piece like maybe like 4 inches long, and I actually dug it into the ground. And so if I see any cilantro leaves growing outside of that, you know,
You would
you
cut
know,
it.
then I would cut it in, or I would deroot it. I would actually pull it out of the ground because if you just cut it, it's just going to keep growing back. So I would pull it with the roots, and after a while, it stays inside of there. It stays inside the container that I have it.
Dang. Broke
But it's just
nature, Dan.
well, it's an open pipe, so it's
Uh-huh.
not like I'm, depriving it of growing it, and it grows crazy, man. If you sometimes you have to just cut it, even though you don't want any, because they start growing like these flowers at the end if you let them,
Mm-hmm.
and those flowers don't taste that good, or at least I didn't really care for the taste too much. So I would just have to sometimes just trim it, just so that it could keep growing fresh, but not grow to the extent where you're going to see these like flower buds coming out of the end of them.
So like yeah, like she planted that, and then when I was helping out this morning, I noticed that the squash flower it had like flowers coming out of it,
Yeah, every
and
flower is going to be a squash.
well, it had these orange flowers, and then you could see like a squash, but apparently you can eat the flowers. I was telling my mom, she goes, "Oh yeah, you can make you saute the flowers. It's like a delicacy in Mexico." And she said
Mm.
that they made quesadillas with it. And her and my mother-in-law says they make something like a gordita almost with it, and they put it in masa like dough and stuff, and they do all this crap. I'm like, I didn't even know you can eat that. That was just a nice looking flower. But you could saute it, and then you could slice it up, and then you just sprinkle it with quesadillas. I don't know. Have you ever eaten that stuff? Then I didn't even know you can eat that.
I had tasted it just to see if it tasted good, and I didn't really care for it too much myself. But yeah, I guess we eat stomach tripe, so I'm sure there's people that could eat flowers without any problem.
Yeah, it's a nice, but they said it tastes good. So I might have some later today. They cut some off this morning. My mother-in-law came and she took some, so I might try it later today. I'll let you guys know next time if it was any good. But apparently my mom said it's good. I've never had it, so it's interesting and just ready. I'm getting ready for the grid to go down, man. I'm gonna eat a shitload of vegetables, and we'll see how everything goes. But I'll post a picture of it when we upload the episode, so everybody can check it out. But there's like a when we first started and what it is now, and
Yeah, but
it's pretty huge.
I agree with you, man. That water bill sometimes could get out of control. I know the first year that we gardened, we were like all out there and we're like, oh man, this is cool. And we were watering it like every other day. We're out there watering it. And that first year water bill, man, I saw one bill come out like $300.
Holy shit!
And that's a lot for a water bill. I mean, typically our water is integrated with the waste.
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of the time it's like $20, $40, $50 the most. And one year it came in $300, and that's when I told my wife, "That's it. This sucker's gonna have to deal with just the rain that comes down from the sky. I'm not watering it anymore." And yeah, it can get
Yeah, no,
expensive.
she waters it twice a day, so that's what I'm saying because that's what her father told her to do. So she waters it in the morning and then she waters it at night. And like yesterday, we had some rain. Like, you don't have to go that crazy. It's gonna rain tonight. Yeah, we'll be all right. Like, I'll just finish it up. I'm just like, and it fucking rained. So, but yeah, we got I mean, plus we put grass and stuff on the front yard. We laid down some seed grass. So that's growing up nicely. But after working hard and all that shit, tilling the field and plowing and shit, I started
Fucking.
fucking well. That's you always do that, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's not a special occasion when you do it so
All right.
much. It's just part of the routine of life, you know.
Uh-huh.
I've been I was doing like eating differently, like almost keto stuff, and I wasn't really drinking liquor. I was dry for like the last 8 months. And finally we were allowed to drink, so I drank a beer. I had like a light beer like 3 weeks ago. Oh man, it did not go well. I felt like bloated and shit. I was kind of disappointed because I was really looking forward to having a beer after not having a beer for like 8 months. And so I started looking into liquors and started looking at whiskeys. So I bought a bunch of samples. I bought whiskey and bourbon. And needless to say, I fell in love with bourbon, man. You know, the brownest of the brown liqueurs. And I've already killed a couple bottles, and I'm ready to go buy another one.
Yeah, bourbon's a great tasting whiskey, man. I like the taste of that. I'm still trying to work on my Crown Royal, and that's the drink of my choice right now. But since this whole pandemic started, I haven't really drank at all. Just because drinking does tend to lower your immunity system. So I've been, omitting it, but I might have to get me a drink today since today we're actually recording on Father's Day. So I might have to go get me a drink today.
Yeah, I don't drink during the week, but Friday, Saturdays, after dinner, I might, have a glass of bourbon. And we celebrated our wedding anniversary this past week. So my wife bought me some whiskey rocks, or for
For the glass.
for the glasses, and I tried it. It was pretty cool. We came with 6 rocks. I only put like 3 in there, and because usually I put one ice cube, and I thought with the one ice cube was pretty good, but the rocks is it kept it cool, but man, that shit was still strong. Because the first bottle I bought was Jim Beam Black Bourbon, and that was pretty good, man. I killed that fucking bottle like in a week and a half. It was smooth, but it wasn't as strong. The one I got right now is Elijah Burke. That fucking thing is 94 proof.
Ooh,
So I'm drinking like fucking gasoline, but man, it goes down fucking smooth. That's what I was having a little bit of last night. It's a small batch. It's called Small Batch Bourbon. Elijah Burke. They were the first ones to do. The only reason I bought it because I saw a lot of older gentlemen buying that bottle, and it wasn't a lot of stock in it when I bought it at Costco. So I'm like, this pie has to be really fucking good. It was between that and the Kirkland brand. And the Kirkland brand, they had a shitload of fucking bourbon. I'm like, it's probably not that good. That's why they got so much of it. And then the other one was the one I bought, and then that thing was selling like water. Like, man, a bunch of old guys they had that shit in their cart, so I bought that one. Yeah, that fucking thing is strong, man. After one cup of that shit, I have a nice fucking buzz going, and that's the one I highly recommend. The Jim Beams, you could drink that all day. It's not as strong, but it's really smooth.
Yeah, have you ever had that whiskey ice, Noel? I like it, man. I think it makes it taste better because it cools it off, gives it a cool taste. But at the same time, it doesn't water it down. So then it's just like a mixed drink at a bar. It keeps that potency of the whiskey.
yeah, I've messed with whiskey before. I can't say I've messed with too many bourbons. Probably the closest thing would be like Southern Comfort. I
Yeah,
like
SoCo is a whiskey. It's no, I think it is a bourbon. You're right.
it is, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's probably one of the more smoother drinks that I've liked. Growing up, I guess you could say, or not growing up, but old enough to drink. And Jack Daniels, I'll drink every now and again. But I don't really mess with Jim Beam too much.
Yeah,
Not that it's not good. I don't know.
the Jack Daniels, like straight up whiskey. I bought some sample bottles. I've had it before, so I was trying that, and that is just, it's like, it's strong. But
Yeah.
there's like no smoothness. the bourbons are like fucking smooth, and the Jim Beam, they have Jim Beam regular bourbon, and then the Jim Beam dark. The dark is really fucking good. It's aged, I think, 7 years, and whatever that means. I guess they keep it in a barrel for 7 years or some shit, in a charred barrel or something, from my understanding. But the Jim Beam was really great. The Elijah Burke one that I bought, or Clark, I can't even think of the name. That one too. Supposedly they said this guy's the godfather of bourbon. Yeah, Elijah Craig. I apologize. Elijah Craig small batch. It's 94 proof. They were the first to use char oak barrels. So
is it the same barrel from El Chavo del Ocho?
Maybe. Maybe they kicked him out and they took his barrel. But yeah, man, it's excellent. I highly recommend it. Probably I'm gonna try another bottle. I might have to go to Benny's. Someone told me they have a whole bunch of one-shot bottles, so you can try all this shit. So I'm being a connoisseur of these fine liqueurs, man. So I got to try some more. I highly recommend them, man. Try the bourbon if you're trying to get away from beer. I mean, beer is good, but like I said, I had one and it was just like I didn't like I felt super bloated.
Yeah, if you're trying to watch your carbs, yeah, for sure, liquor is going to be the better way.
Yeah, that was my only knock on it. And I even tried the seltzer liquor alcohol. I tried White Claw. That wasn't too bad.
Oh yeah, have you tried that Miller seltzer
the Bud
thing?
Light and I heard the Corona ones are really good, but they're fucking expensive.
Oh, okay. I haven't tried those yet.
Have you tried the seltzer alcohol, Noel?
I can't say I have. To be honest, man, I'm not too big on alcohol these days. I did have my moment where I was, but it's just a lot of money, man. A lot of money that adds up.
It's a lot of money, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, try it out, man. It's a lot of low everything, no sugar, no carbs. It does have a little bit of calories, which is not too bad. The White Claw it didn't taste. It's seltzer water. It's carbonated water, but it didn't taste like normal seltzer water. It had like a little bit of I want to call it a kick. So try it out. If you guys, all our drinkers out there, send us anything or your thoughts on what we should try at ffmanquestions@gmail.com. You know, let us know. Give us a tip of what we should drink or we shouldn't, or what kind of shit that you guys recommend. So with that being said, I'm gonna finish that bottle pie this weekend. Danny, I see that you finished Hell on Wheels. I didn't get to finish that series. How did what's his name, Munson or something? How did all that go down with the railroad?
No, Colin Bohannon.
Bohannon, there you go.
Yeah, Bohannon, the Southern general, or I forgot what he was in the Army.
Confederate soldier or something.
Right. Yeah. It was a pretty good show, man. I had seen season 1 and I think like part of season 2 before, and I kind of just fell off of it. But me and my wife were looking for something to watch, and I think I mentioned in the last podcast that we were close to the end, so we did finally finish it. It had 5 seasons, and I think this is one of those shows that maybe was a season too long. It probably should have ended in 4. And the only reason I say that is that it seemed to be repeating a lot of the same dilemmas over again. And it felt like they were looking for new things to keep it fresh. And it was okay. But to me, this last season was the weakest, but I think it got watered down, kind of like when you put ice cubes in whiskey. It just got too watered down, and it lost that thing that made it really good.
Yeah, just remember the Swede, the guy who owned the railroad, and some woman, and like it just, yeah, like you said, not that it got repetitive, but it was just like predictable, and that woman with the tattooed face or something. Right.
No, it was a good show. I know I'm sound kind of like I'm shitting on it. I'm really not. I did enjoy it. I like those kind of cowboy western TV shows, kind of like Longmire, stuff like that. I like that. style of show. So I really dug it. Characters were really good. Like Andy mentioned, that Bohannon character, Anson Munt, is the actor that plays it. He plays it very well. Typical dark, gritty main character. It's got a shadowed past, and he's trying to work his way forward. And the whole premise of the show, in case people don't know, is the building of the railroad going towards the west. So I'm not sure, I don't quite recall where the railroad starts, but the whole show is the railroad just progressively going more and more west, and the dilemmas that they run across. They run across a lot of Indians. They run across a lot of land issues where the Mormons are, kind of camped out, and they have a little fort, or they have a plot of land, and the railroad is actually going through there. So a lot of land disputes. And then just the inner politics of, anywhere there's money, government money, there's, corruption and people trying to steal it. And it was a good show. My wife really dug it as well. For people out there that kind of like those Western style feel shows, I think it's a really good show to probably watch.
Yeah, and I think what I recall, they were using Chinese people to build the railroad. They're using black people, and that was like a contention, right? Like one of the seasons.
Right. Yeah, I think it was the third season. They kind of started talking about there was a second railroad company working in conjunction with them, like kind of racing to the west. And they were using Asian workers, which I think it is, history does show very predominantly that the Asian people were helping out in the building of the railroad. And where this show, or at least the main Hell on Wheels show, Railroad, they were using freemen, they call them, which were ex-slaves who were in prison for some reason, or there was having some issues with law, and the railroad company would buy out or bail them out and pay their bail or whatever it was, their fees, for them to come work. So they weren't actually free men, but that was the term that they would use.
They were like indebted to the railroad company or something.
Right.
Yeah,
so
I remember that was a big deal. Yeah, that was like a big thing that I remember from the season. And then the other character I remember was the Swede. And then there was like a lot of religious overtones with the Native Americans or something. Like they're trying to make them Christians or something.
Right. Yeah. There's a Catholic group that's there trying to push religion, and the Sweden, like you mentioned, which his name is the Sweden, but he's actually Norwegian.
Yeah.
He plays a big part in all the seasons, all the way to the end.
Yeah.
And he's one of the big nemesis for Bohannon throughout the show. Common is another character that's in there. Common, the rapper. He's from Chicago. He's in the show, and he is in all of them minus this last one. I think he ducked out in the fourth season, if I remember right. Yeah, I think it was the fourth season. But a lot of really good characters, man. The Irish, their interactions with the railroad. I don't know how much. I don't think this is the kind of show that you would watch for, like, let me watch a historical reenactment of the building of the railroad. But it's a dramatized show, but really cool. Really dug it. I think it could have been a season less and maybe kind of condense some of those stories and be a little more powerful. But it is 5 seasons. Does wrap up at the very end, so it doesn't leave anything in cliffhanger, but good show for everybody to watch. But another thing that I really watched that I just wanted to mention quickly was I watched the Jersey Boys movie. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that or even know what that's about.
I've seen it multiple times, Danny.
Oh, you have? Oh, cool. Yes. What about you, Noel? Have you seen that?
I guess not.
I think we lost Noel for a second. But yeah, you seen it a lot of times, Andy?
Yeah, I've seen it twice.
Ah, sweet.
It's directed by Clint Eastwood. It's I mean, it's a good movie. Even though it's a musical, it's a good fucking movie.
Yeah, I didn't even know about this movie, to be honest. I kind of seen it, and you see the plays in Broadway and all that stuff, and it wasn't like in my peripheral vision, but I never really knew too much about it until I was just playing something on Pandora, and it was like on the oldie station,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a Frankie Valli song, but it was a cover song by Jersey Boys, and I'm like, oh, what are these Jersey Boys? Are these like people that, kind of like there's Beatle cover bands that kind of, play Beatles songs? That's what I thought when I first saw it. And I'm like, oh, let me look a little more into this. And when I looked a little more into it, that's when I saw that it was a movie based on the musicals. Needless to say, we saw it, me and my wife, and, I didn't really get her feel. She was kind of quiet. She doesn't really dig oldie music too much. She kind of bears with it, since I'm an oldies player. I know. But I think she liked it. It was a very good story, man. I thought it was very cool with these kids growing up from Jersey, Italian, the mob, Irish, and it was just really cool, man. I didn't know this whole backstory to Frankie Valli and his crew of guys that he hung out with, and it was just really cool to watch. I see you're back, Noel. Have you ever seen Jersey Boy?
No, I was actually looking it up. I don't know. I guess I got cut out, but I was saying that no, I've never seen it, but it looks interesting. I don't mind musicals too much, but I'm not sure too much about this one. 1960s, huh?
Yeah, I'm not crazy about it, but I like the Four Seasons, and when I saw Clint Eastwood directed it, and it didn't do real good in its initial release, but I think when it got released to, I don't want to say DVD, but like streaming, I think people are acknowledging it more. It's a pretty good movie. But yeah, I mean, it delves into everything, like you said, Danny. It's and it's some of the characters, not the characters, the people, like the guy that's the wannabe mobster, and then the guy, the songwriter,
Christopher Walken guy.
No, the guy that
Tommy?
played the guitar, yeah, Tommy, and then the guy who wrote some of the songs, and the one that Joe Pesci found, which I found that hilarious. That Joe Pesci is like, he used to help him out and stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, is that the real Joe Pesci, or is he just making fun of it?
No, it's the real. He's like, yeah, that's why he goes, yeah, that Joe Pesci.
I didn't know if he was making fun of it, because I'm like, is it the real Joe Pesci? Obviously it's an actor playing Joe Pesci,
Mm-hmm.
but when he said that he's Joe Pesci, that Joe Pesci, I was just like, nah, that can't be real.
What I found it real, that he was taking all that money, the Tommy character, and just like pissing it away, and then what Frank Valli or whatever, and bailed him out. Like that was a big
like
fucking thing.
$500,000.
Yeah, and that's like in 70s money, 60s and 70s, so they want to fuck with him. And then that guy Tommy wound up managing fucking Pesci for a little bit. He helped him out when he was starting up in Hollywood. And so yeah, I mean, it's a lot of like little things like that, and I was just like, man, this is. And then the story's good. And then what happened to his daughter, where you see where he comes out with that song, and,
right? Yeah, My Eyes Adore You.
Yeah, that's a good fucking song. And now I didn't know where he got it from, but now I see what it's about, a song about his daughter.
Yeah, I mean, the Four Seasons just had a lot of good jams, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what makes this movie really good, is that it's got so much great music in it. And then it's a musical, but not really a musical like Chicago, where people are singing and dancing. It's acting. So they're acting, and then there's songs that they're playing and how they come about it. I think it's more akin to Bohemian Rhapsody. I don't know if any of you guys seen that, where there's music in the movie, but it's not really a musical like they're dancing it. At least not until the very end. At the credits, they do have like a musical scene where they're dancing and singing, and it's kind of like a Broadway show kind of thing. But otherwise, the movie is just like a regular movie. It's just got a lot of music in it.
It would have been awesome if there was like if we really watched one of the dancers at the end and the ending, like you see Clint Eastwood dancing back there. I would have found that hilarious. I kept looking at like maybe there's some like hidden thing, but nah.
Well, he was dancing.
Gotta watch the bloopers.
He was dancing. Yeah, I saw the behind the scenes reels of it, and he was dancing there, but I don't recall, because I was the same way. I'm like, I wonder if Eastwood's going to come out here. So I was looking and I didn't see him. But when I saw the behind the scenes, like the making of and whatever, there was a clip that showed him dancing with the group. So I'm like, oh, I wonder if they showed it or maybe he cut it out of his own movie. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Clint Eastwood is a pretty good actor, and he's even a better director. And when he did that, I was kind of shocked he did that. But I mean, it's a good fucking movie. I mean, I highly recommend it to people. I mean, even though there's a lot of music in it, I know some people are like hit or miss on that type of stuff, but to me, I like the music, so it didn't bother me as much. And it's a really good movie. And then all this is based off of real life events, so you got to think how much of it's real and how much of it's just made up for the movie.
Right. And I think what Alana really liked about the movie was that she loves those Goodfella type movies where you got these group of guys growing up, getting into trouble, and then just making something of themselves. So it's got that vibe. So yeah, really good movie for you guys to go out there and check out. Highly recommend it, especially if you like the Four Seasons in Frankie Valley. But something else to jump into, guys, is the article of the week. Article this week is kind of a lighthearted one here. Have you ever wanted to be Spider-Man, Andy, or be a superhero?
Of course.
Yeah,
I think want to be Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think everybody kind of has that dream when they're a kid, kind of be some kind of superhero. And
I just wanted to be Mr. Fantastic. We all know why.
Right. Yeah. Well, it looks like these kids took it to that extreme. They wanted to be a superhero. They wanted to be Spider-Man. In fact, that they let a Black Widow bite them in order to see if it would convert them and transform them into Spider-Man and give them his superpowers. So I thought this was hilarious that kids would even think about something like this. And it was just nuts to me. I don't know about you guys, but they were kind of old. It was 8, 10, and 12. You would think at that age you would kind of comprehend that this isn't going to give you superpowers, kind of thing. I don't know if I'm just thinking crazy, but at that age I would think you would know.
If it was American kids, maybe, or not even American kids. Like if it was like a Western world upbringing, or I guess a better way to say it is like a first world upbringing, maybe. But I think this happened in Bolivia. I'm not sure if these kids are raised, correctly, if their parents taught them, any common sense. But yeah, it's pretty crazy to see that some kids are gonna let a spider bite them on purpose, and then they're gonna have to go to the hospital because they're convulsing and feeling all this pain and shit.
I don't know, as a kid, the Black Widow, when I was growing up in the hood, me and my cousin would freak out when he would see a Black Widow spider.
So you actually have seen some?
Yeah, I've seen some, and he goes, bro, we gotta get the fuck out of here because there's a Black Widow. And I'm just like, and don't you know those things could kill you? And I'm just like, it's a fucking spider. It's not that bad. And he would freak out, and we would have to leave because he would get scared. But reading the article, I know they were like, I'm dangerous, but I'm reading this, like, yeah, like, they took him to a hospital, and then they're like, we can't handle this. You need to go to another hospital. And then they gave him a serum at the other hospital.
The Spider-Man antidote?
Yeah, apparently they have a serum for this. It says, while most humans don't die from it, the venom can be especially lethal to small children, the elderly, and the sick. So I guess that's why, I guess as an adult, you fuck it. Maybe you will turn to a Spider-Man if you're an adult.
Yeah, no, man. You always think about that. You always daydream, like, I want to be Superman. I want to be Spider-Man. But, man, I asked Junior. Junior's 10. He's going to be 11. Man, would you do this, Junior? Would you let a spider? And he's just like, hell no. He's like, I wouldn't let a spider bite me. I don't care if they told me that it would give me the powers. I wouldn't let it bite me. So, I don't know. There was a 12-year-old kid in there, so I would think he would have the foresight and be like, nah, man, this isn't a good idea.
This reminds me of the episode of Family Guy where the Griffiths get superpowers. I don't remember what episode. It was just they were early on, and they fucking get, like Megan gets nails grown and all this shit,
Yep.
and then the people are like, "We gotta do something," and Mayor West is like, "I will go and transform into a superhero," and he goes and jumps into some like chemical spill. And he goes to the doctor. He goes, "You're very sick. You have lymphoma.
Yeah,
You
you
got
have like
cancer.
30
This.
cancers.
Like, why did you jump into that?" He goes, "I wanted to be a superhero." And he goes, "That was very stupid." And I was just like, it's like that's what when I was reading this, that's the first thing that brought me back because that happened to the Griffiths. He's like, "Well, I'm gonna go jump into this chemical shit too," and he fucking got real sick. And that's how it came to my head because we read comics and we see the movies now, and you're just like, why can't this shit happen to me?
Have you ever seen a Black Widow, Noel?
Not in person, just images. I have seen a brown recluse though. I killed one. But that was
Brown
like
Reckless? Oh, okay. What's
brown
that?
brown recluse. You never heard of a brown recluse?
No, I don't think I've ever heard that or seen one.
Those cause can cause if untreated necrotic lesions.
Whoa.
So it triggers necrosis and it makes your like skin and tissue start to dissolve.
Yeah.
Shit. Damn.
Yeah, I've heard
Where'd
of
you see
that.
that one?
That one I saw in the basement stairway.
Damn.
Yeah. It freaked dude, it freaked me out so bad because
Sounds
at
like
the
a
time
badass movie right here.
the time that I saw it, I was under the influence of some good medicinal herb. And so I'm like anxious because I'm looking at it and I'm like I have to go up these stairs to get to where I want to be, but it's like right there. And I'm just like shit, like do I just pass it by? Do I let it live and have babies and then now I have 100 brown recluses or do I kill it? So I got this big ass textbook, like a huge like Bible thick one, and I just fucking threw it at the wall and it splattered. it got messed up real
Dude,
bad.
if you were under the influence, maybe if we would have bit you in the influence, maybe it could have give you superpowers, man. Maybe that's like to counteract whatever's the bad venom or some shit.
Shit, the good thing is that no matter what herbal remedy I use, it's never gonna make me dumb enough to try something like that, dude.
Yeah, I can't say that I've ever seen any kind of dangerous insect like that. I don't recall ever seeing a black widow or any kind of, I don't know what a black or a brown whatever recluse that you saw. So I don't think I've ever seen anything that dangerous to even worry about it.
Maybe you have, but you didn't identify it.
Yeah. Because my cousin, I think it has the black widow on the butt or whatever you want to call it on the body. There's like some shape or some design, and he's like, "Oh," and he start freaking out. "Let's get out of here. It's a black widow." I was like, it just looked like the regular old fucking spider to me. And he generally would get anxious about it, and we had to fucking kill it or leave.
Oh yeah, I have seen these guys. I just Googled it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen these guys. I've seen a few in this house too, but I've just killed them all the same. I mean, I didn't really give a shit or know what it was about.
Which guys? What are you talking
The
about?
brown one.
The brown one?
No, the brown one. The black widows, I think, are very distinctive because you see that hourglass thing on their back, like you said.
There you go. Yeah.
But yeah, these brown recluse, I've seen these before, but I didn't really think they were that dangerous.
All right, well, let me make sure you're not getting it confused with this other one because some people get it confused with the yellow sack spider, which also can have.
Isn't that your nickname from high school, Andy?
No, that
Yellow
was
sack?
Big sack game.
No, yellow sack.
Oh no, big sack.
Oh, okay.
I think this is the one you're talking about. Because I've seen these in the house too. They're not as dangerous. I usually let them live, depending on if there's a lot or then I'll kill
all
them.
the time.
Yeah, I've seen those. The ones you sent that picture.
Yeah, those are not brown recluse. They look like it.
Okay.
Those are yellow sac spiders. They can also cause necrotic lesions, but it's not as common. It's such a rare thing. You'd have to be like living in like a third world country and have like a compromised immune system to get really messed up by the spider. But usually I try to leave spiders alone. They kill a lot of ants, and if you kill all the spiders, you're gonna see an ant infestation before long.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, my
So
wife's always like, "Don't kill it. It's protecting us from some other shit." And I'm like, "Man, fuck that. That spider ain't paying rent. It's time to get him the fuck out of here and by death."
now that I'm getting older, I have been a little more like, let's save the lives of these insects. So I usually try to capture it and throw it outside.
Hippie talk.
Well, I mean, if it's not bothering me now, if this thing is like if it's a mosquito and it's like buzzing around, and I'm gonna kill the shit out of you because you're bugging me. But if you're just chilling, you're there in the corner. Now I don't want you in the house, so I'll scoop you up and toss you outside. But if you're not doing anything and you're just trying to do your thing there, then I'll let you go.
You're setting a bad example because the other spiders are, see, he ain't gonna do shit, man. Let's just fucking build our web over here and he'll let us chill. That's some like fucking bullshit, man.
At work, actually, funny. When I first started there, I had my little cubicle, and there was like spiders all the time. I don't know if it was like their hangout or what the hell was the deal. And so one time there was like a big one, like a mother one, and I killed it and I left it on the wall. And then everybody would, sometimes, not everybody, but sometimes people would notice it and be like, "Hey, is that a spider carcass hanging on the wall?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, I left it there just to give the other ones warning that, hey, I don't mess around, man. I'm gonna kill you if you come over here."
That's what you gotta do, man, because them fucking animals be running wild.
The only one that I would be worried about, which isn't even in Illinois, is the funnel web spider, the Sydney funnel web specifically. A bite from that could probably kill you in less than a day, probably a couple hours.
Shit, man.
Yeah, man. There's I don't know. I don't think I'll let any animal fucking bite me to get superpowers. I'd rather jump in some chemical shit, I guess.
Yeah, Joker style.
Joker style, yeah. And then you get chicks afterwards.
No, yeah, for sure. No, man, the kids, I don't know, man. I don't know what they're watching. I don't know what kind of education, like you said, Noel. So I don't know, man. They're not listening to their parents, or I don't know what's their deal. But you know who you should be listening to? You should be listening to us here at Freeform Radio. And we'd like to thank you for listening to us. We want to remind you to visit our Facebook and Twitter at Freeform Network. Send in those questions and suggestions to ffnquestions@gmail.com. Visit our website at freeformnetwork.podbean.com. There you're going to see all of our old episodes. This one I think is going to be 121, I think, if I remember right. And
Growing.
Man, we're getting up there, man. We're getting up there. So
We
yeah,
left
man.
many a coalition behind us.
Yeah, for sure, man. Come check out the old archives. Visit us on any of the popular streaming sites, Stitcher, iTunes, a bunch of new ones. Like and subscribe. It really helps out the numbers. We really appreciate it. But for Freeform Radio, we have Andy.
And my name was Big Sack Andy in high school.
Right. And Noel.
Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
My name is Daniel. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. We'll be back in a couple weeks for the next one. You guys take care.
That was cool, Dad.